The chime of the bell beckons us into a sacred time. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, a congregation that welcomes you, no matter what you look like or who you love, and no matter how you practice spirituality, because we know we need not think alike to love alike. We extend a heartfelt and inclusive invitation to join us in meaningful worship and in service to the world. Please make note that the responses that are usually found in your order of service are now in laminated cards that have been put in some of the hymnals, so when it gets time for that, look there. It's easy to use because you'll see that there are corresponding icons in the order of service to the icons with the responses there on the card. We have several people under the weather this morning. We look forward to them feeling better and returning to be with us. Michael Lenahan is stepping in at the last minute for Chelsea, and we're very appreciative of that. While Dr. Rock is not sick, she's out of town. However, we welcome Dr. Jan Taylor and Jim McGehee, who are stepping in. It takes two people to fill her shoes, so we appreciate you all being here as well. While mask wearing in the sanctuary is currently optional, you are encouraged to continue to wear your mask if you are more comfortable doing so. So now please join guest song leader Jim McGehee and raise your voice in song for our first hymn.
Good morning. Please turn to the Singing the Journey Teal hymn book and number 1008. We'll sing When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Please rise as you're willing or able. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom of each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see the faces in each other's eyes. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words. Then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place. When we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our church within, and we feel the power of each other's faith. Then our heart is in a holy place. Our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
Hope. This morning we speak of hope, the outside chance, the possibility, the ever-present reality that even when things are difficult or hard, there might be, in the always coming future, different than they are now. Hope for change can be found in the smile of a stranger, sparkling petal, rays of sun, small pieces of kindness. Hope is here, now, pointing the way. Let us find it. Let us act upon it. Let us see it growing ever stronger amongst us, even now. And come, friends, let us worship together.
Celebremos compartiendo nuestras vidas, enciendiendo esta luz.
Well, when I heard that Reverend Colin was going to be talking about hope today, I thought of one of my favorite authors and a quote. Some of the young people may know about Lemony Snicket. Do you know who that is? In one of the books, Lemony Snicket said, "Strange as it may seem, I still hope for the best. Even though the best, like an interesting piece of mail, so rarely arrives, and even when it does, it can be lost so easily." That's why it's so good that the young people here can come and be together and look for and find and hold on to that hope like an interesting piece of mail. So, young people, you are in fact the hope for our church. We see you coming up. So we ask that the older folks find the new pew card and sing the lyrics to As You Go as they head out for their activities this morning. Please join with me in a spirit of reflection, a time that some call meditation and others name prayer. Breathe with me the breath of life. Breathe in for loving, for acceptance, and with a sense of calm. Breathe out the sorrow, the division, and the stress. Inhale as we share this interwoven, intricate web of affinity. Exhale as we feel one another's presence. Breathe with me as we gather to do the holy work of kinship and support. Open your mind, open your heart. God of many names and mystery beyond all our naming, we bow our heads in order to imagine not one path, but many. We imagine a path forward for those who cannot imagine any path forward because of poor health, financial hardship, family crises, and other roadblocks we cannot begin to understand or imagine. We struggle to imagine a path forward for those who are forced to leave a homeland against their will and for those unable to leave a war-torn homeland despite their lives being in danger. We imagine a path forward for those who leave their homes to make a better life for their families elsewhere. May we be a welcoming presence along that path toward hope. We come together to imagine a path forward for those of us despairing because we do not seem to know our country nor our neighbors, despite the fact that we have not moved at all. May we be the good we are hoping to find as we travel side by side down the path toward hope. We imagine a path forward for those who feel lonely at this time of year. May we take one another's hands as we walk that path toward community. Truly, we know as we imagine these ways forward and take one another's hands, the paths will lead to hope. The roads will lead to beloved community, and the arc will bend toward justice because we have dared to travel with love in our hearts. We pray in the names of all those known and unknown, present and absent, remembered and forgotten. We pray in the names of all helpers of humankind. Amen. We pause now to lift up that which sits heavy and light on our hearts. We remember Tawana's family as she just learned her uncle passed away. We also remember in our prayers Tawana's dear friend Carolyn Rich and member Audrey Gale Hull, both of whom are battling health issues. We lift up Malu Garcia, the sister of Maru Farnos, who continues to struggle with her health, and Carol Galanti, who is improving with the help of her sister Diane Stotz. Book club mainstay Doug Carlisle continues to convalesce at the St. Dominic Village Rehab Center, while George Cawthon does the same at his home. The memorial service for longtime church member Joyce Ambler will be November 25th at 11 a.m. We send our love to John and the entire Ambler family. We put a book in the foyer for people to write their concerns, their joys each week. This week, one person says, "We are grateful that we survived some of the insanity connected with the election." Another is saddened and mourns the seasonal slaughter of 270 million turkeys every year and longs for the day when these animals can spend their short lives without the threat of ending up on a Thanksgiving table. And this person remembers Jade Matusi, who died October 30th after a long struggle with mental illness. Jade attended FIRSTUU's RE. We now turn to a practice inspired by African, indigenous, and pagan traditions. We say aloud or bring to mind those we wish to be held by the loving embrace of this religious community. They are part of the great cloud of witness and memory, and we will, even if we do not know their names, hold them in our hearts. In this great cloud of witness and memory, amid this beloved community, we hear these names and hold them in our hearts. Let us remember the suffering and joy amid and among our community that we do not know. We pause in awe and wonder of the beauty, diversity, and mystery that is life. In the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and in the spirit of compassion, I invite each of you to enter into a time of silent prayer, meditation, or reflection. Each week, our morning offering is shared with an organization that shares our Unitarian Universalist values and through which we may live out our principles in the world. This week, that organization is HAWK, the Houston Area Women's Center. HAWK serves thousands of women, children, and families each year escaping domestic violence, sexual assault, or sex trafficking. This morning, we welcome longtime member Carlos Rodriguez to tell us more.
Good morning. I'm here, both church, work, stuff like that. Our mission and history. The Houston Area Women's Center, HAWK's mission is to end domestic and sexual violence for all. While we are called the Women's Center, we serve everyone, men, women, non-binary folk, everyone. HAWK was established in 1977 by a few dedicated volunteers with a few borrowed phones, ready to answer the call for women in violent relationships with nowhere to run. We have since grown to a staff of more than 170 advocates, reaching more than 50,000 people each year. HAWK services are completely free and confidential. Crisis response. From the first moment survivors need help until they gain a sense of stability, our crisis response team is there every step of the way. Services consist of 24-hour hotline, 1 domestic violence hotline, and 1 sexual assault hotline, safety planning, knowing the signs, etc. 24-hour emergency shelter with 120 beds, hospital advocacy and support. When a survivor goes to the hospital immediately following their trauma, HAWK's advocates accompany them any time of the day or night and provide advocacy and resources. Survivor empowerment. Our services provide survivors and their families with the tools they need to regain their confidence, develop financial independence, navigate the court systems if they choose, and rebuild their lives free from violence. And these services consist of counseling, legal advocacy, children's services, economic empowerment, coaching and classes, housing support, which we provide rental assistance for up to 2 years, and the lease is in their name. Violence prevention. HAWK's work with our community members to build a greater understanding of domestic violence and sexual violence in order to reduce and ultimately prevent its reoccurrence. Each year, our staff trains thousands, including youth, medical teams, law enforcement, mental health, and legal professionals, faith-based leaders, and more. How can you help? Spread the word. Tell your family and friends and network about what we do. You never know who has been affected by this public health crisis. Visit hawk.org or call our hotline. Donate. Our services are all free. This means we depend on government grants and philanthropy from community members like you to operate. And then volunteer opportunities as well can be found on hawk.org/get-involved. To learn more about opportunities to volunteer, you can build kits for clients, provide client childcare, and assist our program teams in administrative duties. I've been there for about almost a year now. I really have grown and appreciate the work I do, but also work with the staff and the residents that I've served with. So I really appreciate the time and the honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Those in our sanctuary will find the instructions for text giving in the order of service. And those watching the live stream will see the instructions on their screen. A regular Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action. We ask you to give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received.
with me in the words to dedicate our offering? They're found in your new pew cards, which are hopefully accessible. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these are our offerings. Our first reading this morning is from The Political Theology of the Earth by Catherine Keller. The work of hope, far from any certainty, is a hazardous business. In its public urgency, it does not postpone or predict the not yet so much as it begins to perform it, to ingather, to contradict it, to contract it. So then hope cuts free the numbing cycle of pessimism and optimism. Optimism and pessimism both know the outcome. The hazardous hope, however, does not know, does not predict, nor does it patiently await, draped in black. This hope grieves even as it activates, even now. Here ends the first reading.
The second reading, Bariyeh, is an anthem of the current Iranian protest movement. Shervin Hajipur composed it of tweets made by the protesters. The translator is unknown. For all the footloose dancing in the street, for all the fearful moments when our two lips meet, for all the sisters, mine, sisters, yours, sisterhood, for all the brains that need to change from thinking obsolete, for all the shame of being hungry with no coins to spare, for all the yearning for lives that could be free and fair, for all the children left behind who don't know how to wish, for all the economic-based despair, for all the poison floating in the air, for all the tree-lined streets, their greed will strip them bare, for all the animals like Perus who depend on us, for all the dogs put to death with no time to prepare, for all the tears that spill so endlessly, for all the fathers who have suffered grief so senselessly, for all the faces laughing happily, for all the students bravely making this tremendous leap, for all the mandatory paradise, for all the locked away but sage advice, for all the Afghan kids who pay the price, for all the lines that I could write and never say one twice, for all the claims they love to make as empty as their hearts, for all the households collapsed because of faulty parts, for all the feelings of serenity, for all the warmth of the sunrise when the new day starts, for all the sleeping pills we take like cups of tea, for all the men, our land, prosperity, for all the girls who ever longed to be one of the boys, for all the women, life, let's be free. Let's be free. Let's be free. Let's be free. Here ends the second reading.
I invite you to take out your teal hymnals again, and please rise in body or in spirit, and we'll sing number 1017, and we are building a new way. We are building a new way.
This past summer, I had the opportunity to hear the Commoners Choir in concert. The show was part of their Hope and Anger tour. They're a British folk choir that sings all original compositions. Our choir sang one of their pieces earlier, Hope. It was the song's North American debut. Hidden in the bluster, planted in the past, the seeds of our utopia are growing in the cracks. We need a litany, a rosary, a shout, a chant, a melody for our hope. Act upon hope. The lyric offers a title for today's service, Act Upon Hope. It's always difficult to know what to preach about the Sunday following an election. No matter what has happened, there's going to be a variety of feelings in the congregation. Some of you will be disappointed. Some of you are likely to be satisfied. Some of you are probably sick about hearing about electoral politics. And more than a few of you have a mixture of all of these feelings. Act upon hope. Hope is always a good theme for such a service. It relates well to any of the feelings I named a moment ago. If you're disappointed, then you are probably hoping that the next election will turn out differently. If you're excited, then you're probably hopeful about the impact of the election on public policy, or simply relieved that all of the election deniers running for Secretary of State lost their elections. And if you're tired of hearing about electoral politics, then you're probably looking forward to a respite from them, at least once the results from the House finally come in. Hope fits well with our monthly theme also. All month we're reflecting on what grounds us, and the faith of many Unitarian Universalists rests upon hope. This brings me back to our song from the Commoners Choir. While you may not know them, you're almost certainly familiar with their conductor. Boff Whaley was, for many years, one of the primary songwriters for the band Chumbawamba. And even if that name means nothing to you, I can assure you that you know their most popular song, Tub Thumping. The chorus contains very familiar words of hope. I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never going to keep me down. Now, I've long been a fan of Chumbawamba. They have one of the greatest ranges of any pop group of the last couple of decades. They've made house music, played punk, sang traditional English protest songs, and arranged choral pieces. None of those, as far as I'm aware, had previously been performed by a congregational choir. And when I asked Boff if he would be willing to let the First Church's choir sing any of them, he was so generous that he actually shared with us the entirety of their scores of choral music. Test out the possibilities, keep an eye out for the gaps. When things are so uncertain, you can find some room to act. One of the things that I appreciate about the composition is that it accomplishes something I aim for in my preaching. It points the way towards the possibility of a better world. It reminds us that whatever the situation we currently face, there is a history of victories to look to, and the seeds for a more just society are already here. I'll return to that claim in a moment. But first I want to observe that I saw the Commoners Choir while they were on their Hope and Anger tour. And Hope and Anger is a pretty good description for a lot of Unitarian Universalist preaching. The tension between the two has even found its way into one of the few recent television depictions of Unitarian Universalist clergy. This Fool is a show about a gang rehabilitation center in Los Angeles. In the pilot episode, one of the characters introduces someone to the center's founder, who happens to be a Unitarian Universalist minister. The minister quickly goes on a rant about the miserliness of a billionaire who made a modest donation. It seems that while the billionaire gave the center a few $1,000s, they had recently spent hundreds of millions of dollars on a vanity spaceflight. Voicing his frustrations, the clergyman declaims to no one in particular, "Please, throw down a few more pennies from the troposphere. Astronaut, son of a," and storms off. This prompts one character to turn to another and ask, "That fool is a minister?" He's a Unitarian Universalist. Those fools are like hippies, but angry. It's not a terrible description for a lot of Unitarian Universalists. I probably wouldn't be described as a hippie, but the rest of it, still, the phrase catches a core move in a lot of our theology. We begin with a description of what is, then we turn to imagining what should be. And the distance between the two of them can make us angry. And the path that runs from one to the other we might term as hope. Hope, it should be remembered, is not the same thing as optimism. Optimism, the theologian Catherine Keller reminds us, knows the outcome. The optimist has a sense that no matter what happens, things will largely turn out for the best. Their sentiment is based on the opinion that the universe itself is largely benign. A cursory glance at the history of the world and humanity suggests that such a position is unwarranted. There's been too much suffering. We humans have done too many horrible things to each other and to the planet for me to believe that everything is going to turn out for the best. Hope is a hazardous business, Keller claims. It is the possibility of a different future, not its guarantee. It acknowledges what is and then points to what should be and argues that there is a chance, be it ever so slim, that there might be a path from here to there. The opposite of hope is found in words written by George Orwell that he put in his famous novel 1984. There, one of his characters states, "If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever." Just as the optimism that all things will be well is not testified to by the scope of human history, the pessimism of Orwell's statement is equally unwarranted. Hope reminds us that there is always some chance before us to bring more beauty and kindness into the world, that even when we are surrounded by hate, we can choose to act from love. One of the most powerful stories I know about this comes from the Holocaust survivor, Gerta Weizmann-Klein. Writing of her time in Auschwitz, she recollects, "Ilsa, a childhood friend of mine, once found a raspberry in the camp and carried it in her pocket all day to present to me that night on a leaf." Imagine a world in which your entire possession is one raspberry and you give it to your friend. Klein's story is not about the triumph of good over evil. It's not the assurance that suffering will end or that better days are coming. It is a tale of how even in the midst of human horror, people still can sometimes share beauty, and there are few things that are more beautiful than a wild raspberry, and act from love and offer each other friendship. This is what hope is. It is acknowledging what is, awful as it might be. It is naming what should be, lovely as it could be, and it is making a gesture to bridge the gap. Holocaust, the height of human cruelty. Sharing a raspberry, an expression of human solidarity that reflects the best within us. The tension between the two, hope. Hope provides a ground for our Unitarian Universalist faith. In classical Unitarian theology of the 19th century, figures like William Ellery Channing used to speak of the likeness of God. You might have heard some of my reflections on the phrase in the past. In a famous sermon, Channing set forth an essential assertion about the nature of our tradition. He preached, "True religion consists in proposing as our great end a growing likeness to the Supreme Being." This sentiment rests upon a belief that within each of us resides something that theists, or someone prone to religious metaphors such as myself, describe as the spark of the divine. We are each born with potential. The purpose of religious community should be to help us uncover and live into that potential. Yet there will be human cruelty. Yes, there will be human failure. But yes, there's always a chance that each will blossom. Such hope is not necessarily an assurance of permanent victory. Sometimes it's just the interruption of the awful with the beautiful. A smile, a raspberry, a kind word, a reminder that love exists. These little acts of hope are available in many circumstances. Think of your own life. If it's anything like mine, it's had its periods of disappointment, despair, and defeat. I've certainly had my dark nights of the soul, when it feels like the odds were stacked against me and there was little chance that things would get better. And things don't always get better. But even when they do not, there's always been those things, those cracks in the sidewalk that have reminded me to invoke Dr. King. No lie can live forever. Things change. There is human kindness and flowers to be found in unexpected places. I wonder if this has been your experience. Your heart feels like it is breaking. There is so much heaviness. The strange between what is and what should be is profound. And then a stranger smiles, or you look up at a tree's canopied complexity, or you savor a sip of tea, or there's some small thing that happens which calls you beyond the difficulty of the hour and reminds you that the future is unwritten and that there is still some good to be found. This sentiment is rich within Severin Hajipur's song, Barahe. It's the anthem of the protest movement currently in Iran, and he composed it of the tweets from those in the streets and those who support them. It reflects the reasons why, after more than 40 years in a theocratic regime, many Iranian people continue to strive for a better country. The song contains many statements about the awfulness that people experience living under the regime. There's economic-based despair, tears that spill so endlessly, and households collapsed because of faulty parts. But there's also footloose dancing in the streets and the warmth of sunrise when the new day starts. Overall, what I found in Baraye is a testament how it is possible, even in the brutality of the hour, to both find hope and to act upon it. It's not a simple matter to act upon hope. Awful regimes thrive by making us imagine that the future is fixed and that there is nothing we can do to change its course. Orwell's adage ends with forever. Forever is perhaps the most unrealistic word in the English language. Not even stars last forever. It's a mistake to cast hope as a belief that the victories that we've had can be assured to be permanent. The greatest failure of the political imagination is the thought that the way society is arranged now is either how it has been in the past or how it will be in the future. The same is true with our personal lives. They're constantly changing and shifting. And in both, hope should be found in the assurance that we are moving always in the river of time. Any moment might contain delight or difficulty, but our lives and our world will be different in some other moment. An embrace of the lack of permanent victory, a hope based in the reality that the universe itself is ever-changing, ever-shifting, ever-altering, is core to Unitarian Universalism. Returning to Channing's famous sermon, in it he does not promise everlasting salvation. Instead, he holds out the chance that there will be times in our lives when a ray of infinite light may yet break forth and shine as the sun. We might grow this hour in the likeness of God, and in the next discover that we have done some ill. Yet there always remains some odds, be they great or small, that we might be touched by kindness and generosity. Channing's words are almost 200 years old. They may even seem antiquated. Human hope is a deeply personal matter. Each generation expresses it in its own words. Catherine Keller wrote her reflections on hope in a work trying to make theological sense of the climate crisis. The reality that we humans might destroy the capacity for our planet to sustain us is not and the hope that our species might avert that fate is not something that earlier generations had to cast into the language of hope. The hopes listed in Baye contain several items that are similarly bound up in the time and place of 21st century Iran. A Unitarian Universalist approach to theology, as I said earlier, is to name what is, imagine what should be, and attempt to travel the path, to act upon hope between the two. What was yesterday differs from what is today. What will be tomorrow is not going to be the same as what exists now. My imaginings and yours are in some ways other than those of our ancestors, and likewise might seem strange to future generations. Even if much is the same, continuing desires for clean air and water, shelter, good food, companionship, and some work to call honest, there will also be much that seems different. The least difference might be language. My family's not always spoken English. Generations ago, my ancestors named their imaginings in German, Yiddish, Ladino, and other tongues. I imagine the same is true for your family. I mention language because we are at a moment in congregational life where we are trying to put our hopes into the words of generations now living. As you might know, we are currently in the process of drafting a new mission, vision, and covenant for the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston. This is a process designed to help us better live out our theology. We are figuring out what we aspire to, our mission. We are envisioning how we might bring it about, our vision. And we are telling each other how we promise to treat each other as we work together, our covenant. Today, you have an important opportunity to help us articulate our collective hopes and imaginings and how we might act upon them. Our Vision, Mission, and Covenant Committee has been gathering your input through a series of focus groups and in an online form. Their intention is to make sure that everyone who wants to have a voice in naming the hopes of this community has the opportunity to do so. In your order of service, you'll find a QR code that will take you to the committee's online form. And after this service, they're offering an opportunity to participate in a focus group if you've not had a chance to do so already. So far, we've had more than 130 people share their thoughts with the committee. We have a goal of hearing from at least 150 of you, roughly half the membership of the congregation, before the committee begins its work of crafting a new vision, mission, and covenant in the next couple of weeks. And so if you've not yet participated, please do and help us reach that level of engagement. Our hopes are much easier to act upon when we share them with each other. I would also be remiss not to mention another opportunity to share your hopes for this community and act upon them. Earlier today, before this service, the building task force presented the work that they have identified needs to be done as part of a prospective capital campaign. A capital campaign is a time when we name our hopes and then commit to bring them into being. There's a lot being considered. Everything from attending to deferred maintenance and greening and beautifying our campuses. If you haven't had a chance to participate in that meeting, there will be one on Tuesday online. Final decisions about the campaign itself will not be made until December. The draft text of the mission, vision, and covenant of the congregation will be shared next month too. So now is a time for you to let your hopes for the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston be known. I close with these references to the work of our congregation because they are, once again, illustrative of our Unitarian Universalist theology of hope. They begin with what is, the desire for a mission, vision, and covenant, and the need to address critical issues in the building. But they also offer us the opportunity for what should be, a mission, vision, and covenant cast in the language and embodying the aspirations of generations now living, and a physical plan that meets our needs and reflects our values. And I suggest a path between the two, a way to act upon hope, the what is and the what should be. We need a litany, a rosary, a shout, a chant, a melody for our hope. Act upon hope. May this community be a place for each of us, for all of us, be the times easy or hard, to act upon hope. That it might be so, I invite the congregation to say, Amen.
Our closing hymn is also in the teal hymnal, number 1074. Please rise in body or in spirit and help our choir of two sing Turn the World Around. We come from the fire, living in fire, go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in water, go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain, go back to the mountain, turn the world around. Whoa, so is life ours, so is life. Whoa, so is life ours, so is life. Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are? See, we one another clearly. Do we know who we are? Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? See, we one another clearly. Do we know who we are? Do you know who I am? Do you know who you are? See, another clearly. Do you know who we are? Whoa, so is life what you are. So is life. Whoa, so is life what you are. So is life. Water made the river wash the mountain. Water made the sunlight turn the world around. What is of the river? What is the mountain? Spirit is the sunlight turn the world around. We are of the Spirit. We are the Spirit. We are the Spirit. Whoa, so is life about you are. So is
Please join me in saying the words for extinguishing the chalice, and again, these are found on the new pew cards. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Let us leave to name what is, imagine what should be, and envision the path that lies between. Let us call that path hope. May we act upon it today and in all the days of our lives. Go in peace, go in love. May our lives be a blessing. Amen. Thank you so much for watching our service today. We're glad you're part of our online community, where we welcome people who are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, as well as gender identity and sexual orientation. There are many different ways you can get involved in our community. One you can do right now is by clicking like below or subscribing to our channel. If you're interested in joining our congregation, please email us at membership@firstuuhouston.org. Thanks so much for joining us.